Hi, hello, welcome back to another Onkruid video. I'm really mixing things up right now. I'm intertwining edited Soulstone Survivors videos with unedited Soulstone Survivor videos on the same day, but the chronological order is messed up now because the videos might be coming out before the unedited counterpart, where the unedited counterpart was actually recorded a week before. It's all insane, it's all madness. Either way, I'm just gonna play more of this game. What we will be doing today, Don't mind these things, by the way. I haven't been playing that much off camera at all. What we're going to be doing today is my own submission to the Discord, to the Gamesmithing Discord of a daily challenge, and I called it the Peasant's Run. Very easy. You can pick whatever you want and whichever weapon you want, but you can't pick skeletal minions because they are just overpowered. And the upgrade restrictions are the following. We always have to choose from the least rare option. If we get one epic upgrade slot, one rare upgrade slot, and then one common nasty little upgrade slot, we have to take the nasty little common upgrade slot. You always have to take the cheapest one, the peasant. That's why I call it the Peasant's Run. Let's just jump straight into it. I can pick whatever I want, so I think I'm gonna play something that I normally don't play all that often. Let's go for the Spellbreaker. Let's select him and let's just see what we can do. I'm gonna go for the caves. I always love myself some cave action, the only dark map in the game so far. And here we go. Headed off into the corner, of course, as always, because in the meantime we are still trying to clear out the level as quickly as possible. All we're doing right now is really just farming. Farming materials, farming gemstones, farming everything that there is a possibility to farm for, so that when the game actually releases or when the early access actually drops, I am stacked up already. I need to remember to show every upgrade screen in this video then to make sure that you guys know that I'm not cheating. So here, this is so stupid. I'm also not gonna use any rerolls or banishes. I didn't include any of that in the challenge description, but I'm just gonna take it like that. Merciless common power. It's gonna be gut-wrenching. It's really gonna break our heart, but I think that with the entire passive tree still filled in, I didn't refund any of my passives or anything, I think that we should still be able to achieve a clean victory easily enough. In active skills you have no rarity, of course, so I can choose whatever I want here, and I will go for the shadow spikes. Well, we can't really choose whatever we want. We can't choose the skeletal archers. It's generally known within the community of this game that the skeletal archers are a bit overpowered, a bit strong, but a bit too strong maybe right now. Oh, two uncommon upgrades. Merciless common power. No, it might be more difficult than I actually thought. Well, here we have two options of the lowest rarity, so I can choose between them. I'm of course gonna go for frailty because we need some offensive abilities ASAP. Otherwise, we're not gonna be able to clear out that lord at all. Probably gonna have trouble with the elite already. At least we're applying some bleed with our basic ability, but it's not the strongest damage over time. Sure. I could go for ground slam and maybe try to go for a little bleed build in general. Two uncommon upgrades. Let's go for the damage modifier. We desperately need more damage, that's for sure. And how have you guys been doing? For me, it was a weird weekend. It was quite a fun one. Sure, we went squashing, we went bowling, and I just had a nice chill time with my girlfriend. We also puzzled a lot, which is very fun, very calming, very soothing. But in the meantime, a bit of a less fun experience was having to say goodbye to one of our dogs. Later today, because it's Monday right now, she is gonna get put to sleep by the veterinarian because the cancer has been growing too fast for her to have like still a comfortable living experience. There's gonna be a point where the cancer is mostly situated in like her shoulder, so at the top of one of her legs, and it's gonna come to a point where it's gonna become so big that it will actually break her leg, and it's gonna be agonizing pain. So we of course do not want that. We don't want to do that to her, and that's why my mom made a sensible but of course very hard decision to actually just put an end to it, put her out of her misery a bit earlier. It's of course never easy to give up a pet, especially not for my mom. She is very, very attached to those dogs. And here we go, Alexi the Plague Bearer. I wonder if you guys have ever had to say goodbye to a pet. I think it's probably... this might be controversial or something, or it might just be weird. It's probably gonna be easier than saying goodbye to a child or a parent, for example, which is something we... Well, saying goodbye to a parent is something we all probably have to do. Saying goodbye to a child is something I hope we don't all have to do. We're going for a bomb build, by the way, as well. But yeah, saying goodbye to a pet is also just very, very hard, isn't it? It's not easy at all. not only is a pet an entity that you really build up a connection with throughout the years, you really invested in building up a relationship with it, it's also just like a big investment otherwise. Time, money, getting her checked out at the vet all the time, or getting the right feed and stuff. And it feels sad to give that all up. I have to pick the uncommon power. But there's also a great deal of acceptance already with me, because I mean, I know that we gave her an amazing life, way better than what she was used to, because it was one of the dogs that was rescued from Spain, where they sometimes treat dogs a bit worse than in some other Western countries. And yeah, we really did give her all the loving a dog could possibly need, I think. Especially my mom, of course. But even after all that, it is always hard, you know? It's always hard. We still have one other dog left, and I wonder how that other dog is gonna fare now that our first dog and her sister, kind of, is gonna be passed away. They're coming over to do it later in this afternoon. A lot of people were confused by the fact that the veterinarian is actually coming to our house to do the deed, to put the dog to sleep. They thought that you always had to bring the dog to the veterinarian's office yourself. But I think that it's beautiful, and it's way better like this, actually. Just in her own safe habitat, where she feels great, because she knows that everything's fine there at home. Instead of giving her that extra stress in her final moments by driving over to the veterinarian and stuff. No, I think it's much more sensible for the veterinarian to actually come over to your house. Afterwards, they are gonna take her away after they have put her to sleep, and I think they're gonna cremate her. So they're gonna turn her into ash, to very rudimentarily say what shit they're gonna do to her. And that means that we will still have her very close to us all the time, because they presumably give the ashes over after that is done, that procedure has been fulfilled. And I like that a lot more than if we would just bury her in the garden or something like that, you know? Having her ashes near you means that you can put it like on top of a wardrobe, or on top of a cupboard in the middle of your living space, in the middle of your house. And it means that she will always be a lot closer than when she would be somewhere buried beneath the ground. Yeah, she was a crazy dog, but she was definitely a good dog. Not the general playing kind of dogs that you are used to. She didn't want to pick up sticks or any tennis balls or anything like that. No, not at all. But in the end, she started to really get used to me and my presence, and it was just so fun. Whenever I would come home from the student city from Leuven after a week of studying, and we would be eating fries on Friday evening, she would come stand next to me and kind of like extend her butt towards me, because that's where she would always like to get the pets, and you would have to get like really get in there. She would start alternating between her 2 feet to kind of move back and forth. It was a delightful experience every single time. And it wasn't always that easy, because she was a safe dog and presumably treated very poorly by males, sadly enough. It was very hard for this dog to form any kind of connection with a male person. Me, my dad, my brother, when he still lived at home, we all had a hard time connecting to the dog, because most of the time she just ran away from us, or kind of like ducked her head away when we tried to pet her. But in the end, it was very much different. So yeah, a weekend with ups and downs, definitely. But all in all, it was fine. It was also a nice way to say goodbye. I didn't necessarily want to be there when they actually put her to sleep, because I feel like, even though this might sound weird, or in my head it actually sounds very sensible, but I wanted to be like in control of my goodbye with her, you know? It was like, no, I decide to say goodbye to her on Sunday. I don't want to be there when they actually take her away from me on Monday, you know? Even though that sounds very dramatic, but I think you understand what I'm saying, right? This way it doesn't feel for me like I was there when she died. No, it feels like I just said goodbye, and then afterwards she died. She left this world. And I hope that there's definitely gonna be someone up there that is also gonna pet her buttocks and make her alternate between her feet. I guess it's just part of life, and also part of getting a pet. It's something you know, well, you kind of know what you sign up for once you get a dog, right? You know that in a couple of years they're also gonna go away again. We didn't know her exact age, but we presume it was somewhere around the range of like 14 years of age, so that's already quite a prosperous life for a dog, and I think we definitely made it as prosperous as could be. And there we go. So yeah, that was my weekend. That pretty much sums up what has been going on in my mind for now. For this week, I don't have too many special things planned. later today I'm gonna record another podcast episode with my co-host Cool Kid Berglucht Stef. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna be talking about 3 other episodes of another podcast, a Dutch podcast, Het Inzicht by De Morgen, which is kind of a news media site, media entity, one of the better newspapers, one of the better quality sources of news around here. And it is this podcast by one of their journalists, Joël de Keulaar is his name. And he invites interesting people. He invites smart people, big thinkers, scientists, things like that, to talk about the one major kind of life lesson they have picked up throughout whatever type of job they are into or whatever things in life they have experienced already. And we are going to be talking about the first 3 episodes. And the great thing about having that podcast in Dutch is that I can now also talk about it in English and still make it feel like different content for everybody that's watching. So, joke's on you. I don't need to be creative or think about new material. I can just be repetitive and use the same material in multiple videos. Interesting stuff though. The first episode was with a philosopher. I don't know if there's a feminine form of that word. I almost took an uncommon upgrade there. A philosopher focusing on Spinoza, which is a Dutch philosopher from the 17th century. Grew up in Amsterdam and is actually also Jewish and Portuguese. And a very interesting figure. Talked a lot about potestas and potentia. Both Latin terms. Potestas meaning kind of like the power, the might that we humans can have over each other. And potentia is more about your inherent power, your inherent might to do things that fit you, to do things that kind of make you the best person. And she talks about how, well, this potestas, this part of our power that we hand over to others that handing over part can often be impeding towards our own potentia, our own actual vital power of what we actually want to do and be good at in life. Very, very interesting stuff. Her main insight is kind of summed up as, well, people always say that you can be whatever you want in life and you can do whatever you want as long as you set your mind to it. But she was like, no, be a bit more realistic in that. Think about your limits. Think about the things that you can't do well. Think about the things that you can do well, that you can do really well, things that really give you satisfaction in life, and try to kind of make your life path so that you do a lot of those things and not a lot of the other things that you actually can't do well. Which seems like a very basic and very simple thing to realize, but it's something that we more often forget than we care to admit, I think. I think most of the time we are kind of focused on that potestas, on making sure that we are viewed well, I'm looking for another word, viewed benevolently, maybe something like that, in the eyes of our peers and in the eyes of people standing above us, in our bosses and our government and things like that. But sometimes you need to think of yourself as well. It's the same as something Jordan Peterson talks about, and a lot of other psychologists also talk about, like, and philosophers for that matter, like, compare yourself with yourself and not with others. And I think that's something that you should always keep in mind. And that's interesting. So that's one of the topics we're going to talk about. And the second episode was with Bruno de Wever, a historian focused mainly on the Flemish nationalist movement at the start of World War II, I believe, or around World War II, surrounding that time period. Oh, here we go, an uncommon power. The gods are merciful today. And one of the most interesting debates in that episode of the podcast was related to postmodernism. Apparently a movement that kind of stated that, like, well, the only source we have about history is texts, and you can't always trust texts. And his life lesson that Bruno de Wever tried to share with us on this podcast episode kind of ties into it as well, but in a different manner. He tells us that everybody, even the experts in the field and stuff, everybody is living in their own kind of story and also telling their own story. He gives some examples of this from his own life, where he is kind of like the authority, the leading figure when it comes to that part of history, the nationalist movement here in the Flemish region of Belgium during World War II or around the period of World War II, and how kind of whatever he says in his books and his works has been considered like, all right, that's going to be the truth and that's going to be reality. While in actual reality, he has put certain nuances in his stories, of course, and he has taken certain shortcuts to present pieces of information, and he has put different emphasis on different parts, whereas other historians might have done that differently. So kind of we are all following along his own story, you know, and that's something that sometimes gets lost, you know. People don't realize that anymore, and they think that whatever they are reading is just the honest to God truth, and that there's nothing subjective about the information they are getting fed, which is all obviously not true. There's always a bit of interpretation, there's always some subjectiveness, there's always something of input from the author himself, you know. Interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. And then while we face the final lord here in our little challenge, which has proven to be okay, it's doable, but it just makes your runs a bit slower. I feel like without the upgraded mastery, skill tree, point tree, whatever you want to call it, it might be a lot more difficult. Either way, the final episode was with Guillaume van Stichenen, a Belgian, media personality, a columnist, a singer. He used to own a bar for a while as well, and he was very into making commercials and stuff as well. That's what he's most well known for making some of the most well-known Dutch commercials here in Belgium. Some of the slogans that you really be like, all right, yeah, I heard that commercial like 15,000 times in my life already. And he talked about his great life lesson, his great insight, which is the title of the podcast, was about that we are our connection. He realized that a whole bunch of people are asking themselves, who am I? What is my real identity? And there's answers in terms of individualistic terms, like I am me, or there's answers in terms of social terms. I am the groups I correspond to. I am the groups I am a part of. I am like my surroundings. I am my position in the people around me. That's their social identity. And he kind of emphasized that social identity. His main life lesson was that I am connection. I am the connections with everyone around me, and that got very, very apparent in his life. He really realized this when his son died in an accident, and a lot of people surrounding him, a bunch of friends and family and friends of their family, actually got together. He described it to go together to support them. He described it as like, well, there was this big power cord being pulled out of his life. That's what happened when his son died. And then a whole bunch of small little wires actually replaced that big power cord. That's a beautiful description, I think, of what connection and social support can mean for somebody that has experienced a traumatic experience. And I found it an interesting episode. I found all three of them really interesting, and I'm very much wondering what my buddy Cool Kid or Berglucht or Steph is gonna have to say about them. If you have any thoughts on any of those subjects, or if you have anything to say about your experience with losing pets or anything like that, feel free to leave a comment. See you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope the Soulstone Survivors content is not boring you yet, because it's definitely not boring me yet. We've completed the entire skill tree by now, so for now it's really just saving up everything. We've also upgraded every single weapon. We can't buy any runes yet, but I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the early access, and there's gonna be just a whole lot more content in this game then as well. I'm gonna try to upload the edited videos always at the start of the day for me, so that's 9 AM in my Western European time, the basic Greenwich time, I think, from London. Or you can always just look up Brussels 9 AM time. That's when my videos will be released. The unedited videos, which might also be in different games in the future, will mostly go up at 3 in the afternoon for my personal time zone. And sometimes an unedited video might also go up at 9 AM if I don't have any other videos lying around. I'm starting to get more and more into going to job application conversations, job interviews, so my schedule will be a bit more jam-packed. But all things to talk about in other videos as well. Either way, thanks all for watching, and thank you for your condolences that you probably want to share with the loss of my pet, or that's what I hope at least you. If you're a decent human being, you motherfucker, huh? Don't you like dogs? You're one of those cat persons? Ah! Bye.